Sit tight. This should be a thrilling ride. This is so dumb. That was so dumb. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you guys about thrillers. This is probably my most read genre. I've watched dozens of videos over the years with thriller recommendations, and I find a lot of great books from these recommendation videos. If it's not a baby interrupting, it's a cat. I mean, life, right? Anyway, so a lot of my favorite thrillers, I feel, have fallen through the cracks. I don't see them talked about a lot on BookTube. I don't see them recommended a lot. So that's what I want to talk about today, is some of my favorite underrated thrillers. Let's hop right into it. The first one I'm going to touch on very briefly because I talked about it in my favorite books of all time video, but that is Intensity by Dean Koontz. The title of this book really says it all. It's an edge of your seat thriller. There are a lot of elements to this book. There's a lot of cat and mouse. We have abduction. We have murder. We have a really big twist that we don't see coming. This book really has it all. Please go check out my other video to really get a good synopsis of it. I don't want to be redundant and talk about it again for another 4 minutes. So just go check out that other video if you want to know a little bit more about that one. But yeah, top of my list is Intensity by Dean Koontz. I have never heard this talked about. It's probably because it is a bit of an older book, but definitely worth checking out. It absolutely stands the test of time and is definitely worth adding to your list. So go check that one out for sure. Okay, the next book I want to talk about is The Last Mrs Parish by Liv Constantine. So this book offers dual point of views. The first one in section 1, then we get the point of view in section 2. So that's kind of how it's split up. We are following two main characters, two women, Amber and Daphne. We know from the get-go that Amber is a con woman of sorts. She's scouted out Daphne in particular and is attempting to befriend her and kind of worm her way into her life with the intentions of stealing her husband and ultimately her lifestyle. Amber kind of comes from the wrong side of the tracks. She has sort of a checkered past, and we know that she's harboring a secret from the get-out, which we obviously don't find out until much later, but that's the basic gist. Daphne is a well-off housewife. She spends her time volunteering. She's a mother. And from the outset, she seems sort of like a vanilla character, but kind of just like kind, sweet woman that's very obviously being taken advantage of by our other character. Right off the bat, we're told that Amber has these negative intentions, and when I started this book, I was initially disappointed that what I assumed was the twist, which was that Amber is trying to kind of con her way into this family, was really given away so quickly. But do not be like me. There is so much more to this story than meets the eye. If I had to assign this book one buzzword, it would be manipulation. This book has so many twists and turns that I absolutely did not see coming. Amber is the type of character that we love to hate. Daphne is this type of character that has so much more depth than what initially meets the eye, if it means anything to you, which it likely doesn't. But this is probably one of the books in the last several years that I've read that I will absolutely read again, even knowing all of its twists and turns and surprise endings or whatever, what have you. This book is really phenomenal. I love like a familial drama. I loved the surprise of this. Thought this one was so great, and again, as the theme of this video is, just so underrated. I haven't heard a lot about this book on BookTube, but in my opinion, it is definitely worth checking out. All right, the next book I want to talk about is another slightly older book. It is Defending Jacob by William Landay. This book is a courtroom legal thriller, which is something that I rarely read, but this one was really unnerving and really just hit like the perfect notes for me. We're following our main character, a man named Andy Barber. He's a family man. He's married. He has a son. He's a well-respected and successful assistant district attorney. And one day his life is turned upside down when his 14-year-old son Jacob is charged with murdering a classmate. What ensues is basically a father who's torn between loving and knowing his son and that nagging feeling in the back of his head that questions everything he thinks he knows. This book has the unique trope of a relationship where you so badly want to believe you know your family member inside and out, especially a child that you have raised that is your DNA. You so badly want to believe in your family member that you know so intimately, but while also coming to realize that you may not know your loved ones quite as well as you think you do. I will say this book has a really phenomenal ending. I know it's a bit controversial from what I've read from some other reviews, but if I could relate it to something, I would relate it to the ending of Gone Girl. Now, that is not to be confused that these two books are alike. They are not alike in any way, but the ending of Gone Girl, in my opinion, if you're familiar with the book, which I'm sure everyone is, I thought the ending was phenomenal because I thought it was really true to our characters. If our main characters got what they had coming to them and, you know, Gone Girl ended, we'll say that way, it would not have been true to Amy's character. Does that make any sense? Amy doesn't get caught. She's too cunning for that. She's too good for that. Does that make any sense at all? Ending of Defending Jacob to me was very similar. It was an ending that was true to the story and to the characters, and frankly, I thought it was absolutely perfect. If you're into this type of legal drama, definitely check this one out. I like reading about courtrooms. I like reading, you know, legalese, and I really liked the perspective of our main character being a lawyer. Just something really, really different for me. So I really, really loved this one. If any of those tropes sound up your alley, definitely add this one to your list. It shouldn't disappoint. Okay, the next book I want to talk about is Violent Ends. This one is an anthology, so it is a combination of, I believe, 18 different stories or 17 different stories written by 17 different authors. This book is categorized as YA. I don't necessarily think it falls just into that box because we get so many different authors' perspectives or writing styles rather. I think this can really trend between YA and adult, so don't be afraid or turned off by the YA box that this gets put into. This story is at its core about a school shooting, which is obviously a very difficult subject matter, and I hate to even assign it the thriller element. This is more like a very emotional drama, maybe we would say that, but I really, really loved this book. So each of our chapters or each of our short stories is written from a different perspective. These perspectives come from classmates, family. Some of them are just events or instances that happened before or after the shooting. Some of these chapters are from the perspective of inanimate objects, which I thought was really, really interesting too. But everything essentially centers in and about this event of this school shooting. Interestingly enough, none of the stories directly focuses on the shooting itself, but I thought that that made it more compelling even. You get almost all of the periphery information without really being given the shooting itself. So you kind of just see the perspectives in their periphery instead of seeing the actual event itself. The chapters kind of they each take on the role of giving us insight into how our main character, an otherwise normal kid named Kirby, how he ultimately decides to commit this heinous act. Our knowledge about Kirby is really limited to how others saw him because we don't get his perspective. So he's seen throughout the book as a loner, you know, somebody's crush, somebody's brother, kind of the odd guy. You really never get a perfect picture of him because in the people in his life's mind, he's a different person to everybody, which really just makes this even more unsettling and interesting that you don't really know this kid and what his ultimate motivations were. This book also provides more depth into this character than really just categorizing him as the bad guy. It also helps us understand a little bit better how life experience can lead, like I said, an otherwise good kid into committing an act like this. Go into this one with caution. There are a lot of trigger warnings, eating disorders, obviously, school violence, bullying. It is, again, like the other one, it's a bit of an older book, so our minority representation is a little off. So go into it knowing that, but I thought this book was absolutely phenomenal. I would actually reread this one again. It has been a few years since I've read it, but it is so good. It is so unique. It will absolutely stay with you. And it's a fast read too, since each of the chapters are a short story. It's very quick to get through. So definitely check this one out if this seems like it is something you would be interested in. Okay, and the last book I want to talk to you guys about today is The Push by Ashley Audrain. Is that how it's pronounced? Audrain, Ashley Audrain. This one is a release from 2020. I know it was the first book I read in 2021. It was actually my favorite book of the year. This one does have a lot more hype than the ones before it, but I was still disappointed to see how few people talked about this on BookTube. I did see it on a bunch of favorites lists, but I didn't think this got the the hype that it deserved in like individual videos and reviews. This is less thrilling and more of a psychological family drama, but no less exciting, edge of your seat, gripping story. This book follows our main character, a woman named Blythe, who, despite like a difficult, loveless upbringing by her own mother, is trying to change her family tree by being a better wife and mother than the women of her past. And we do get a lot of perspectives from the women in her past, which is really interesting. It adds a lot of depth to why our character is the way she is. We get perspectives of her grandmother and her mother, who are both neglectful, very difficult women. Frankly, women who were probably not meant to be mothers, but that does add an element of depth to our overall story and gives you a little bit better insight into Blythe. But Blythe, she proceeds to get married. She has her first child, a daughter, and immediately starts to have thoughts that something is wrong with her daughter. She doesn't think she's normal. And it's very eerie. It's a very eerie feeling. Because of those thoughts, everything Blythe thinks that she knows about being a mother is really put into question. We explore a lot of difficult themes in this book. Those of depression, familial mental health issues, neglect. We really toe the line too in this book of wondering how reliable our narrator is. This book essentially highlights every fear every new mother has, and it really does it perfectly. It's a very, very tense story. For me, it was something I could not put down. I think I finished this in 24 hours. That may be because at the time I was a newer mother myself, so I could really relate to some of these feelings of anxiety around being a mom and not really understanding your child. This book is very dark and very unsettling, but at times, kind of like I just touched on, it's actually wildly relatable. And I think it's relatable also for women who aren't mothers, so don't be scared off by that. I spent a lot of time both hating Blythe and sympathizing with her, which was a funny juxtaposition, but I also found that to be really unique to have a main character that you both hate and sympathize with. So the author did that beautifully. The ending to this is unsettling. It's a little vague, and I loved that in this book. I thought that was awesome. I absolutely loved that. So it's not for everybody. Again, I saw mixed reviews on the ending for this one on GoodReads when I was doing some research, but I loved this one. I thought it was great, and I absolutely think it's worth checking out. I also believe this is a debut novel. I should have done better research on that before I started this, but I do believe this is a debut novel, so I will certainly be picking up anything else this author puts out. All right, guys, that's it. Those are 5 of my underrated thriller, drama, suspense, intense novels that I think you should really look into that are worth picking up. Check them out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please let me know if there are other underrated thrillers that you guys love that you can think of. Put those down below. I am always on the lookout for something new that I'm gonna love, something unexpected. So yeah, let's start a conversation about thrillers. They're the most fun genre of books in my opinion. Thank you guys for checking this out. I said it in my last video, but please go check out my Instagram. It is the same as this handle. It's Rachaelsbookmark. I try to post on there some more of my day-to-day life, my day-to-day reading, get a little more insight into me and my world. Yeah, thank you guys so much as always for being here. I can't wait to chat with you guys soon. Bye.